actually, let me take a step back. I did interview with somebody, and at the time it was their sales manager. And this is a pretty good idea of how sometimes these things go. So they wanted me to come in sales. I met with their sales manager at the time at Bill Miller's right here by my house.
Okay.
And, I walk in dressed because at Martin Marietta, we did have to be, business professional pretty much every day there. So I'm, skirt, whatever, heels. I walk into Bill Miller and I get the up and down look, And so he's like, "Oh, you're Jennifer." And, I'm like, "Yes, whatever." And he says, "So you're interested in what position now?" And I said, "Well, Joe and Paul had me in mind for a sales rep position for you." And he's like, "Oh," he says, "Well, I feel like with your look, you probably belong more at the front desk."
Okay.
And I was like, "Excuse me?" Yeah. I said, "With my look?" And he says, "Well, yeah." He said, we really also need a front desk person." And I told him, I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I'm not sure if this is going to be a waste of my time or your time."
Ooh, any of that sound familiar? That is the voice of my really great friend, Miss Jennifer Longoria. I know her as Jennifer Vella because I've known her ever since 6th grade. We met at Tafoya Middle School, grew up on the south side of San Antonio, Texas, and now she is the VP of sales. She's kind of like a big dog now, making things happen out there. It had been a while since she and I had connected. I think there's a whole group of us that went to middle school together. We have this really special connection where we can go for years without seeing one another. And then when we connect, it's just like 6th grade all over again. In this conversation, Jennifer shares the mindset that has carried her through life. I mean, it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, and she had to overcome some significant stuff. She also talks about customer appreciation and some differences between relational and transactional thinking, which I think is some secret sauce that led to her becoming the VP of sales. It's kind of a big thing. And I share a very serious fear, I think, that every middle school boy deals with. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about that one. Of course, we're going to shout out our patrons because their funds are contributing to continuing the movement, making things happen. We got a little update on our Patreon account. So we've trimmed it down. There's 2 options. You can sign up for one level or the other. Or you can do like a custom donation or contribution if you'd like to. And you can find that on the website, learningsandmissteps.com. Become a member. We appreciate anything you're willing to give. And everybody's been giving their time. So thank you for listening, spending your mornings, your drives, your walks, your runs, doing chores, whatever it is that you do when you're listening to the podcast and our guests. We deeply appreciate you doing that. All the reviews you're leaving, all the sharing you're doing, thank you very much, because the word is getting out there and there's a continuing movement around careers in the trades. And that is the whole purpose of this podcast. And I appreciate y'all joining me in that effort. Oh, and then we have a little bit of an update on the book. Keep an eye out for some future conversations where Jennifer Lacey and I are speaking on a few podcasts. We've secured some time with A Quality Podcast. You need to check them out. Find them on YouTube, A Quality Podcast. Wednesday with will be live streaming with him on LinkedIn. And then with Mr. Felipe Engineer Manriquez, we're going to be speaking with him on the EBFC show, and Dr. M on the Dr. M Vodcast, also on YouTube. It's like super excited. We've gotten feedback already that people are getting value out of the book and applying it to their lives, which was and will always be the goal. But having an opportunity to talk about it and spread that message to other people is really, really meaningful. So thank you all out there for supporting us in that effort. Oh, and then one more update. We've got the Next Gen Builders event coming up at Clemson University. I'm going to be hanging out with Mr. Walker and Mr. Davis from the Lane Foundations podcast, interacting with the next generation of the construction industry. We will be in person with the students on campus, and we will be live streaming the event. So go to the Lane Foundation's podcast. Pretty sure there's some sponsorship opportunities. So take a shot, baby. Come and support that effort. And here we go to Miss Jennifer Longoria. What's going on, L&M family? I am here with a dear, dear friend that we've known each other, since sixth grade, Jen?
Yes.
Jen, sixth grade. And this is how special this conversation is. Back in middle school, we went to Tafoya Middle School, Tafoya Toros for life, right? And so we used to take a bus to go to this special school because we're super smart kids, and everybody was. I made it in somehow. I don't know. And I would walk Jennifer home. Do you remember that, Jennifer? Yeah. And I would always walk. What's that?
I said pretty often.
Yeah. Often I walk her home, which was a few blocks. It was on the other side of the tracks literally, we lived on different sides of railroad tracks. And I would walk almost up to your house and then turn around and go home.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes, that was funny. I don't know why.
Oh, you want to know why? I'll tell you the secret.
Was it my brother? I don't know.
No, here's why. I would turn around and okay, this is the limit. I can't go all the way to the front door, because if I went all the way to the front door, in my teenage mind, I had to kiss you.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, because it's what you see in the movies, right? They walk them to the front door. You got to kiss them. And I'm like, no, I can't do that because she's going to fall in love with me. So I'm just going to turn around and walk home.
Wow.
What do you think?
I never knew that. That's pretty cool, actually. Because that never happened between us. That never happened. So
yep. Yeah, funny, but
I mean, as close as we were growing up, that did not happen. So yeah, you probably walked me home, I don't know, a lot, and that never happened. So
yes. Well, Jennifer, thank you for letting me walk you home and being such an amazing friend over whatever that is, 20, 30 years now. The numbers just keep growing.
No, thank you. Because I'm pretty I know that the times that you walked me home, obviously I was pretty safe. Unfortunately, there was some times when you didn't walk me home that there was some things that happened that not a lot of people know about. It was nice to have somebody to walk me home sometimes.
Yes, you're welcome. Beautiful memories. And who would have thought, here we are, just a few years into the future from being walked home down Barrett Street, and the lives that we're living now. And I'm super excited because one, we've grown up together and we're both in the construction industry. And would you have ever guessed that we would be doing what we're doing today?
No, not at all. That was probably the furthest thing from my mind. I don't even think it was ever a thought, to be honest with you. I just think that because of the classes we were taking and, the people that we were surrounded by, I don't think it was ever a thought for me, for sure, because that wasn't where school was taking us. Is that fair to say, right?
Absolutely.
It's they teach you, to be teachers and doctors and lawyers and this is where you're needed or whatever. And so outside of that, you don't think about it at all.
Was there even another option except for, because we were in the multilingual program, which meant we went to a school that we had access to. What language did you take at Tafoya?
I took Spanish because I didn't know Spanish, actually.
Nice. And so it was multilingual because the assumption was we were already bilingual. And so we had access to a third language. I took Latin, and a bunch of our friends took French and German and Japanese. Mm-hmm. Yep. A part of the deal was we couldn't, certain electives, we took 2 credits of a foreign language every year. And so that ate up a credit that we could have taken in extracurricular activities. But also we could only, we had to take college geared courses. And so that was the direction. And it was a good program. And like you said, our friends are amazing people. They're out there contributing, doing big things in the world and in the community. But never, ever, ever was construction or careers in this industry ever discussed.
No, nope, not at all.
Yeah. And so you entered the industry. So like, how did that, like, I don't even know. How did you get into the industry? Like for real?
Honestly, it was by chance because I was in the oil field for probably about 4 years. And that's kind of when the price of oil dropped. I think it was 2014 that it dropped again pretty drastically. Even how I got in there was pretty crazy. But I was laid off and, kind of going through some feelings about being laid off. It was the first time I had ever been laid off ever. And, it's pretty difficult because I had worked my way up even through there. I was like a rental coordinator. I got promoted to small parts inventory, and then I made my way into sales in about 2 years. And so it was pretty difficult to swallow that I got laid off. Among how many sales people were, I was the only female salesperson. There was probably about 8 of us, and I was the only one that got laid off. So anyway, kind of just trying to get my mind off of things. My family and I were driving around, and I think we were kind of like in the Helotes area, Myco, kind of driving around. I see a sign, or Donald sees a sign that says Martin Marietta. And he says, maybe you should look into something like that. And I was like, what's that? Like I've never even heard. Clueless. Never heard of them. He's like, oh, I don't know. He said, I think they do something in construction. He said, my dad, does the radios for all of the plants. He's like, just look into it. He said, you never know.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Sure enough, get online, and they're looking for a sales coordinator. So the sales coordinators, they worked directly under the outside salesman. So they did a lot of their quotes and things like that. Any billing issues, they would take care of that for them. I applied, and from what I understand, I could be wrong, but I was one of the very few people who were direct hires. They were really big on temp to hire. There were some people that had been temps for years.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I was a direct hire, started to pick up what I could. I asked a lot of questions. That's just who I am. Yeah. I just asked a lot of questions. Within about 6 months, my friend Amy, who was in inside sales, got a very well-deserved promotion, and she became an outside sales rep. So with that, her position opened up in inside sales. So within about 6 months, I was promoted to inside sales at Martin Marietta. I was super lucky to be paired up with David Little. Back then, David had been with Martin Marietta for, I think it was like 50 years. He started, he was with Martin Marietta before it was Martin Marietta.
Okay.
So I was pretty lucky. He was also in inside sales. He was a great mentor. I know that he was a great mentor for Amy too. I really did. I appreciated being around him so much. He just, everything, right? From the stories he would tell me, about like back in the day, Jennifer, we didn't do this and things like that. Like I love those things. So everything from the stories he would tell me, to just how he started in the industry, just all sorts. It was really neat, and I appreciated him so much. There was several people that worked in that office that had been in the industry for so long. I mean, even the younger guys, Bobby and, just a lot of them, they were really neat to be around. And I did appreciate anything and everything that they would talk to me about, or, take time to answer questions for me. And that's just kind of how that experience went with them. It was a really good experience. I enjoyed my coworkers there a lot. And, and it's crazy. We talk about, there's so many things that happen for a reason, and although I really loved Martin Marietta, it was that corporate structure, right? That, yes, I was promoted within 6 months, but once I was at that inside sales level, I saw how long it would take everybody else to get going from
Hmm.
there. It was, I mean, we're talking years and years. Amy, for instance, just in the past year or so was promoted to a senior sales rep. She's been there 10 years,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so, not that, I wouldn't have been okay with that. It was just like, man, there's just so much more out there, type of thing. And so again, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I have no idea how that works, but Madden Materials was my customer while I was at inside sales at Martin.
Okay.
So Donald, my partner, he works for here at the time he worked for Cherokee Utilities, and they were doing some work at Madden. He had to go over there to dig a trench or something like that. It was a Saturday, I think. And he was like, hey, I know we were going to go run this errand. I just have to go dig this trench real quick. You want to come over there with me and then we'll go do what we got to do? I said, okay, fine. So I'm just kind of hanging out on what was going to be their new office front porch. It was like a big double wide on, at the sand plant. And so I'm just kind of hanging out. And at the time, the COO and the owner were there they were getting ready to do the floors and stuff in the office. And they happen upon me on the porch. They're like, hey, can we help you? And I was like, oh no, I'm just, I was like, sorry. I was like, I'm just waiting for Donald. He's going to finish, that trench. And they were like, oh, okay, and they start to introduce themselves. And I was like, oh, I'm Jennifer. I'm actually your inside sales rep from Martin Marietta. And they were like, they obviously, inside sales reps don't get to meet their customers a whole lot face to face.
Right.
So it was my first time meeting them, so kind of asked me questions. They showed me around the office, like what they were doing. Okay, cool. I didn't think anything of it. It was nice to meet a customer face to face.
Yeah.
I guess about 2 weeks later, Joe, the owner, actually reached out to Donald and was like, hey, do you think your wife would be interested in coming to work for us? It was kind of like that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, whoa.
Yeah. So like it's a very like right place, right time. At the time they were still really, really small. So, it was kind of like one of those, they had no benefits, no anything. And
Hmm.
so for me, having a family, I struggled with that a lot. I struggled with making that transition and going from that corporate structure and everything. And, I had a decent salary and all of those things to, what they were offering me, which was no benefits at the time. And really, it was going to be pretty much a commission based salary that was hard to swallow. So I held back. I was like, maybe not now.
Right.
And
Right.
so they kept probably about every month or so, and I told them, I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. My son at the time, my youngest, was getting ready to have surgery in
Oh.
October or something like that. I said, he's getting ready to have surgery. I said, there's just no way that I could do this
Right.
transition
Right.
right now. So they were like, okay, let us know how everything goes. I hope everything goes fine. Just keep us in mind. Fine. So sure enough, come December of 2017, they tell me, okay, we have benefits lined up. We're going to have benefits starting this date, this time. We really, really would like for you to come work for us. Oh, but actually, let me take a step back. I did interview with somebody, and at the time it was their sales manager. And this is a pretty good idea of how sometimes these things go. So they wanted me to come in sales. I met with their sales manager at the time at Bill Miller's right here by my house.
Okay.
And, I walk in dressed because at Martin Marietta, we did have to be, business professional pretty much every day there. So I'm, skirt, whatever, heels. I walk into Bill Miller and I get the up and down look,
Hmm.
and so he's like, oh, you're Jennifer. And, I'm like, yes, whatever. And he says, so you're interested in what position now? And I said, well, Joe and Paul had me in mind for a sales rep position for you. And he's like, oh, he says, well, I feel like with your look, you probably belong more at the front desk. And
Okay.
I was like, excuse me? With my
Wait
look?
a minute.
Yeah. I said, with my look? And he says, well, yeah. He said, we really also need a front desk person. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm not sure if this is going to be a waste of my time or your time. I said, because you telling me that I fit for a front desk position is not my idea at all. I said, you would be telling me to take about 10 steps back from where I've gotten. I said, so I was like, thanks, but no thanks, and I kind of walked away from that. It was unfortunate because I guess he never really relayed that information to Paul and Joe, like
Yeah.
what had happened or what had transpired. So they didn't even know that he did that or said that, So anyway, it's interesting how all of that ended up coming along,
Mhm.
and I still ended up coming on board in January of 2018 now. So it's crazy how I even ended up there. Never thought I
Yeah.
would end up in the industry at all. So Madden sells sand, soil, and their idea of bringing me on was to help them build their limestone aggregate sales at the time, because they mainly did sand and soil. So with me coming on board, that was the idea. And luckily, I did have that experience now, and I was able to do that for them. I brought over some customers because I do, even now. I struggle
Yeah.
to give up, even now as a VP. I struggle to give up some of my customers because I just, you have a relationship with people that's really hard to just like,
Yes.
are
You're
you
mine.
are you going to take care of my baby the way I take care of my baby, type of thing?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
always, I'm a mom, so I always revert to like mother,
Mhm.
talk. But that's exactly how I consider all of them. Like I did that. I feel like I did that. I brought in that limestone aggregate side, and I still do that. To this day. Like look at our progress and things like that, and they're like, they would compare pie charts and be like, look, you guys, this is Jennifer. Jennifer's pie is very even. She sells this much of this and this much of that. Like, it's great that you guys you sell more than her. Yeah, that's great, but you should be an all around salesperson like this.
Ah,
That was always nice, but it's
yeah.
not you sell more than her,
Yeah.
but the fact that I did, I did sell evenly across the board when it came to things like that. That was always nice.
Wow. So from the front desk lady to VP.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder where that guy is now. I think he's at Collier or somewhere on there. But
Yeah. Yes. I wish I could say I was shocked by them even saying that. But though the industry has progressed quite dramatically, we still got a long way to go. And there's still a lot of people with just that type of thinking. I mean, there was a time when I was out in the field and I saw a woman on site, and my immediate like I just knew they were the secretary. Right. Yeah, exactly. And when I think she was the project manager, I somehow I probably treated her like she was a secretary, and she made it clear. She's like, hold on, like I'm the project manager here. I'm like, whoa. And then it's kind of like, dummy, of course. Like it's my thinking that's the problem. And that's kind of the point, right? Is this fool sees you, I shouldn't say that, but this dude sees you and says, oh, you'd be great at the front desk. Like, dummy, you don't even know me. You
Exactly.
like you're just looking at me and saying I should be at the front desk. How you like me now, baby?
Right, exactly. It's, like you have my resume. Like, what are you doing right now? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and for anybody, women in the industry like that, it's a punch, in the gut, or, if you want to say a slap in the face, whatever. It's not okay to just assume, oh, look, you have a nice look, you should be more here. This is where you fit. And I'm
That's
like,
like
I don't
so
know.
wrong.
I
So
know it.
wrong.
I
Jeez.
know it. And you still get those like you sell what? Like, you
Yeah.
know, because people it's just it's I get it, it's not that often that you see women in the industry, but it happens and more and more. I don't see it as often as I'd like to in the field still, but I see it like on LinkedIn all the time. You see all these amazing women out there, and it would be nice. It'd really, really be nice to see more. That is something that I strongly encourage women to do, like all the time. A friend of mine just tagged me in something the other day where she had aspirations to be in fashion, which is obviously it's men and women. You know what? There's just a lot more men, right? Male designers than women designers.
Yeah.
But she had aspirations to do that back when I was in the hospitality industry. And she was really upfront that, she had no desire to be doing what she was doing for me at the time. I said, you have to be able to talk to people. I said, and if you can't talk to people in whatever industry you're
Doesn't
going,
matter. Yep.
then yeah, you have to start somewhere. So if it means this lower level gross desk position, because that's exactly how she looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's this lower level gross desk position that you have to answer phones and take customer orders and things, I said if it means starting there and learning how to talk to people, then that's where it's building steps. And she thanked me for giving her an opportunity back then to do what she needs to do today. And I am glad to say that she does do fashion. She lives in California. She has styled, I think, like Isai Morales and a couple of people.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and I love the fact that she still thinks about me when it
Yeah.
comes to that, that I helped her learn something in her path to getting where
Yes.
she needed to get.
That's an important lesson for any entry level work. Like I remember being out in the field as a laborer, right out of high school, getting that first summer job, and I had to clean, and I'm like, man, well, I got to do clean, like pick up trash. Like this is stupid. But all of those things build skill, right? And like the ultimate skill, you talked about it with you developing your clientele and like nurturing those relationships, being able to communicate with people. I mean, I just launched my business, and guess what I do? I talk, right? And I gotta understand the people that I'm serving. I gotta really figure out what value they're looking for, and how they best approach things or prefer to digest things. And that came from learning how to have conversations, like just like you said, learning how to talk to people. Super, super powerful skill. Now I have a hyper developed ability to talk, except now I do it with purpose. Before I used to just talk to talk, get myself in trouble. So Jennifer, what else should the L&M family know about you?
I watched some of your I have your book. I have Lean in Love.
Oh, thank you.
I am not finished with it, but so I watch you and Jen and all of the conversations that you guys have, and you've talked about some of your struggles in life. And what I always feel like is important, I feel it's really important for people to know. And again, not only women, but anybody who has something that they struggled with in life, right? So for me, for instance, I started out adulthood, childhood, as a statistic, right? I had my daughter 3 weeks before we graduated. I had my first child 3 weeks before we graduated high school. And again, like I didn't necessarily let that stop me from doing things. And I struggled to get where I needed to get, right right out of high school. I still thought that what, I can go to college, I can be a full-time student and be a mom and do all of these things. I found out that it was really hard. It was hard to do that.
Yeah.
So, I did have to take a break from being able to go to school, and it was more like part-time school, part-time work, full-time mom. But it was all those struggles, even being in a not great first relationship,
Mm-hmm.
um, and finding myself and realizing, what did I want what person did I want my daughter to look up to? What
Ooh,
person did I want, anybody in my situation, how would I approach that, and how would I expect them, or not necessarily expect them, but what would I want them to do for themselves? Is
yes.
kind of how I was about that whole thing. And, I mean, although again, like I went through some struggles, I never really let that keep me from being whoever I could be with whatever company I worked for. I
Mm,
always tried to be the best. If I was answering phones, I wanted to be the best person on the phone. I wanted the customers to want to talk to me. I didn't want them to talk to anybody else. It
yeah.
didn't matter if that meant that I was on the phone throughout the whole 8 hour day, 10 hour day, whatever the case may be. I wanted people to come to me. That's pretty much how I still am. Again, like it didn't matter what industry I was in, and I went from extreme, one extreme to the other, working in hospitality for 90, what was it, 98 through 2010
Woo.
that I was in hospitality, and then went like the completely opposite direction, in a sense, right? Because
Yeah.
I still had to deal with people, but I went from an industry that was, I guess it's pretty balanced, maybe hospitality, but to oil field, where I was almost always the only female in the room,
Mm,
or in the warehouse, or anything like that. And it's 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 definitely been an interesting transition. But again, like for me, it's more about uh, the things that you endure to get where you want to be. I don't think I ever thought actually that I would be a VP of sales. Did I want to be there? Absolutely. But unfortunately, some women, we still have that idea of nobody's going to let us get there.
yeah.
They're not gonna let us play with the big boys, or whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, you still have that mentality. And that is, I don't know, like at what point that breaks,
Mm, yes.
even now, even in my position now, can I do more? What can I do to be better than that? It's still there at the back of my mind all the time. What can I do? How can I be better?
Girl, you touch on some big, heavy stuff. And first, I'm so proud of you for going through the journey that you've gone through and growing into the person that you are and who the person that you are going to be. Like amazing, right? Because we come from a part of town that it's tough, and those life experiences create a type of thinking, a condition of thinking that makes it very easy for people to take advantage of us. And you're like overcoming that and recognizing the value of like putting yourself out there so that other people can see. I know nobody's going to believe hearing this because I'm like super hyperactive on social media now, right? Like posting stuff, pictures and videos about me and different things, my thinking. And for me, it was a big switch because I used to use social media just to be a goofball and to keep up with friends, right? And post dumb, silly stuff, which I still kind of do that.
Mhm.
But I kind of switched my thinking about it in terms of it's social marketing on one end, because of course I have a business, we wrote the book, but also because I know what I feel like when I see somebody that looks like me or somebody that has a similar experience that I've had thriving. It puts fuel in my tank.
Mhm.
And so that's what helps me get over. Oh, I don't know if I should post this. Like, no, I have a responsibility to share my story, and I thank you for letting us share your story. Like, it's so important, Jen. Like, it's going to impact people
Mhm.
because I mean, think way back when we were walking down, crossing the bridge over Frio City Road, walking by Oscars. How many women did you get to see that you were able to connect with just because, hey, we have something in common?
Yeah, no,
There
definitely.
weren't, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
very few. And so now we have that opportunity to do that. So thank you for doing that. And again, the relationship stuff, that's big, heavy stuff. And being in less than nurturing relationships is traumatic, right? I mean, I've been through them. Yes, guys can be traumatized too, and you've overcome that. So I applaud you, Miss Jennifer. You're a rock star.
Thank you. We did get to see each other here recently, not for the best reason, but I just felt something like after all of us got to see each other this
Yeah.
last time. And it was so funny because for the first time ever, some of y'all asked me what happened to me in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where did you disappear to? And I thought it was interesting that nobody knew where I was.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
it was funny that nobody knew where I was. And it was really shocking to y'all to find out that the high school counselor hid me away. And, they
Yeah.
were, and they were like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I was, you know, 17 because I turned 18 in December. I was 17.
Oh, yeah. I got to interrupt the flow just a little bit. Can you hear that music in the background? A little groovy music. Anyhow, this little segment of this interview exists and is only available on the YouTube. That's right. We got a YouTube channel, Learnings and Missteps. Check it out. Or you can go to learningsandmissteps.com and find our YouTube channel there. And while you're there, you can also click on become a member to contribute some money, like funds. Straight up, I'm just going to say it. 80% of that is going to be donated to the Skilled Trades Alliance, because the Skilled Trades Alliance mission is very much in line with the Learnings and Missteps mission. And we're going to support great things and great people. And you signing up as a patron will contribute to that effort. So we appreciate you deeply for doing that. Also, I don't know if y'all heard or not, just in case you missed it, I'm an author now. Jennifer Lacey and I have co-authored a book. You got to check it out. Lean in Love, 5S Love Letters. It's on the Amazon. The whole goal of that book is to just help one person. And so far, we've gotten several people from the No BS tribe, from the L&M family, that have indicated to us that something, at least one little thing in the book, has helped them. And so we've kind of exceeded our goals. But to exceed the goal and continue helping people, that is the ultimate privilege in the world. So while you're out there on the Amazon, on the YouTube, on the LinkedIn, all the socials, leave us some reviews, leave us some comments, let us know you're out there. I know you're there. I see the statistics, the data, but I don't get to interact with y'all, and that makes me a little bit sad. Anyhow, I'm going to stop my whining. Appreciate y'all very much. Go to the YouTube to catch this Learning and Misstep Backstage Pass. And here we go, back to the conversation.
I realized that night how much I missed my friends.
Yeah.
Because 12 years old, God, we went through so much. Even at 12.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, for me, it was definitely to, I guess, not allow something like that to stop me from doing what I wanted to do or being what I wanted to be, which has always been the best at whatever I'm doing at that time. Just like I mentioned a while ago, if I was just doing inside sales or whatever the case, like I wanted to be the best at what I was doing, no matter what it was.
Period.
Yeah. That's just kind of always been my thing. I still, even though I've been told, Jennifer, you really need to let go of some of these customers. I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't want to,
You're mine, my
I know,
precious.
but it's one of those things, like, oh, let's figure out what we're going to get people for Christmas. You can send baskets of cheese and sausage and stuff like that out. All that's all good. Those like pre-sold, pre-packaged things. But for me, I know my customers.
Mm,
So, and not a lot of people know. I think you know. So, of course, I raise show pigs with my kids.
yes.
And and so I am a very hardcore FFA mom. And so every year we actually keep one of our pigs and we process them, right?
Mm,
So everything that I have is, I know I raised it, it's all homegrown. So one of the things that I do pretty often, because I know that, my customer Mike with Cherokee, his daughter is super big into softball. So Mike is like the go-to barbecue dad. He's at softball, he's at softball tournaments every weekend. And so I know that the best thing that I could get Mike, as a foreman was, well, I gave him some bratwurst or whatever that's mine,
yeah.
from me. I gave him some bratwurst, and I got him, some new barbecue utensils, because I know that that's my customer. I
Yes.
know how to cater to my customers in that sense. So yeah, sure, I can do, I can do the generic things, and that's all fine. But I know it's going to make them feel more, a lot more special, because I know them. I know that Al with this other company, um, he likes to ride his Harley with his wife on the weekends, So if I'm going to get him something, it's probably going to be something to clean up his bike. That's my thing. Like I love to cater to people in that sense. I like to get to know people from that standpoint. My customers, I enjoy the personal side of dealing with my customers in that sense,
Yes.
and I feel like that really helps me not only get to know them, but it keeps them from wanting to go anywhere else, because they want to deal with Jennifer,
Yes.
or whatever the case may be.
So how did you, I mean, first of all, like feeling appreciated and feeling heard is powerful.
Mhm.
So how did you go about discovering the difference between sending, the stuff you can order online, the prepackaged sausage cheese thing, to like, no, 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 I need to give them what they value. How did you figure that out? Was it like a class you took?
No, I, you know what it was? One of the first big projects I got when I started at Madden, I use VBX, right? So
Mhm.
I was really huge into VBX. I would go and scout, whatever I could. And so I came up on the huge Sarah Martinez project that was going on Greytown, kind of at Greytown and Abbott.
Okay.
And actually, that's in like phase 4 now, and I still deliver to that. So two of my customers that got that project, actually. And so I just happened to be talking to them, and the guys were like, oh yeah, we're barbecuing today. We're going to cut out a little bit early, from the project. It was kind of one of those things,
Yeah.
and barbecue. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
be very typical, but it was one of those things. So I thought to myself, you know what? Like, I got pork chops and all these things that they're sitting in my freezer, that sometimes it gets to the point where I'm like, I have way too much crap in my freezer. I need to start figuring out how to get rid of this, because I'm going to get a new pig soon.
Right. Right.
And so it was one of those things, actually, where I kind of went to the job site, and the guys were getting ready to barbecue. So I brought them some of my pork,
Yeah.
and they loved it. And they were like, man, this is so good. Like, where did you get this? I was like, I raised
Yeah.
and that always shocks people, because again, it's like, like
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
raise pigs.
The front desk girl raises pigs.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so it was kind of like that. I think that from there, it was one of those things where those guys would call me and be like, hey, you know what? I know that, I ordered from you for this, but I'm going to do this project at my house. What do you think? What do you think that I can do if I'm trying to, make this nice flower bed for my wife, or, whatever the case may be? And so it's just things like that they start to feel a little a lot more comfortable with you and going to you just about anything like that.
Yes.
So, our business relationship not necessarily became personal, but it was valued in a different way. They
Mm.
could come and ask me to do personal projects for them at their house. What do you suggest or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was from that I was like, you know what, I appreciate knowing people in that sense. And I, just like you're a talker. I'm a talker. I didn't think I was as much of a talker, and now I know I am a talker.
Yep.
It's just things like that. I appreciate and value that type of relationship with people, that they trust me enough to beautify their home, or
Yeah.
do something special for their wife, or whatever the case may be. Like,
Yes.
I value that a lot.
Yes. Well, it's the transition. There's people talk about this a bunch now, right? There's transactional and relational interactions. And for me, like that, I'm like, okay, those are a lot of syllables. You're losing me. The way I make sense of it, it's the growth from providing a service to becoming a trusted resource. Where now I get to work with executives, et cetera, that at some point when I'm listening appropriately, they invite me in. I'll get invited in to be a trusted advisor on like serious stuff. And if y'all don't know out there, building something for your significant other at home is serious business. And so that's what's coming through to me, Jennifer, is because you demonstrate to them that you're listening and you're paying attention. They said, "Oh man, this amazing person can help me outside of the confines of the current relationship that we have." And so the relationship expands, it blooms, and turns into something long-term and more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
All around pork. I'm joking.
Exactly. No, really.
That's another thing. Like, I know I've seen you post on the Facebook about the FFA stuff, and it's like, wow, like, we were city kids, right? City kids outside San Antonio by San Zamora. Like, we ain't got no pigs in the backyard. We ain't got no poultry running around. But just to see where those paths lead, right? It's pretty damn amazing. It's super cool. I keep an eye out, maybe a drone, and maybe hiding in a bush somewhere, just trying to catch some footage of you feeding the animals or something.
Oh, no, it's hilarious, actually. My our ag teacher does an amazing impersonation of me. He's pretty damn funny. And what's even more awesome is that he went to high school with my daughter. Went to Somerset with Nikki, and now he's the ag teacher over at Somerset, which it's crazy.
Yeah.
How much these kids grow. But he does a great impersonation of me. But, I have to mix feed, and I mean, so I show up. Sometimes if I'm at a work site, it's fine because I'm in jeans and boots. But if I'm going to the office or coming from the office, I'm in heels and stuff, and I'm in this barn full of pig poop. I'm always on the phone, right? So he does this thing where he's like this, and he pretends he's holding a bucket, and he's like standing there, and he's like, no, that's not going to work. Well, you need to fix it. He like does this whole impression of Jennifer, Miss Jennifer on the phone, like, yeah, no. And just seeing him do it of me is hilarious. And everybody, when he did it, they were like, that's Jennifer. That's her.
That's the VP feeding the pigs.
Yeah, and I'll get calls in the morning because we have to feed twice a day. So I drop off Axon at school because we keep our pigs at the high school ag barn. So I drop off Axon at school, at the intermediate school, and then I drive to the high school. And so I'm feeding pigs in the morning. And last year we had 5. We had 5.
Wow.
And so I'm mixing feed for 5 pigs, or sometimes I have it pre-done and kind of mix it in the morning. But I'm on the phone, where I'll get a phone call and I'm like, hey, can I call you back? They're like, what is, I always get what is that noise? I'm like, my pigs are really hungry. I really have to call you back. And so of course I end up calling people like, did you just say pigs? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I said pigs. Like I have 5 humongous pigs right now. They're not happy. I gotta feed them because they're not gonna shut up until they get fed. But
That's so cool.
that is my life. Like it's getting ready to start again because school is gonna start and we'll get pigs here in the next couple of weeks and start fresh all over. It's nice, but it's also not nice to have a kid who knows what he wants to do already, at 11, not in life per se, but
Right.
as far as like shows, he's like, okay, mom, I'm thinking this year, I want to go to Arizona again. I want to go to, he has his like the shows, the big shows that he wants to do like lined out. I'm like, okay, who's going to pay for all this,
Yeah.
Because he knows how many pigs he wants. And luckily, we were going to try to do a steer this year, but with everything happening for me at work, steers are a year-long project. And so it was just going to be a little bit too much for me right now. Opening 3 ready mix plants in 60 days is not easy.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it was crazy. So we couldn't do a steer. Hopefully we'll do a steer next year. That'll be I've never done that, so that'll be completely different. But to what you said, city kid to this life, it's been really fulfilling, I guess. Like, not that city kids can't do FFA, because I think they do. They have FFA programs in some of the high schools, but it's different living out here than in the city. And I tell people all the time, like, I would never move back to the city. I just I can't do it. I stayed with my parents one weekend when they weren't feeling well, and I could not sleep. I was like, how do you live here? Like, I heard everything.
Yeah.
I'm used to going outside and hearing like crickets and coyotes. And and I mean, in the city, I mean every single honk. Like I just couldn't. I couldn't wait to come back home and get some sleep because it was so loud there all the time. And I tell people that, and they're like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "No, like, you guys need to come stay at my house. Like, come stay at my house for a weekend, and you will understand what I'm talking about."
Yes.
My nieces and nephews love it. Actually, they like to come here. They like to come to, and I'm not that far out of the city, but just far enough.
Right.
They love it. Like, oh, we want to go to Aunt Jennifer's so we can see cows, and on the way out here, cows and whatever. And they're just funny. They think it's like a whole new world over here.
Yes. Yeah. Like out of town trip for sure.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, man, it's so far to get to your house. I'm like, it's 35 minutes.
Right. It's really not that far.
It's not that far.
Oh man, Jennifer. Okay. So Tafoya Middle School, learning Spanish, getting walked home by a super awesome gentleman, young man, being a teenage mom, hospitality industry, construction industry, VP, FFA mom, right? Like so much. And that's like just the surface. Like we know that there's tons and tons of other experiences you've had along the way and contributions that you've made into other people's lives. So the question is, what footprint do you intend to leave on the world?
I don't know. I can't help but think of what one of my friends says all the time.
Okay.
Just be nice, right? I think that being nice and appreciating people for who they are, what they can bring, no matter what it is, because everybody has their own thing about them, right? Their own strength in some way. So I feel like being nice to people really brings out a lot of that character. Being able to talk, right, is huge. And I like to give people those chances to talk, whether it makes no sense at all, because maybe at some point, it's going to make sense, or whatever the case may be. I like to listen. So I feel like being nice, and again, I'm not going to take credit for that because it's somebody else that says that. Just be nice. to people. And I think that goes a really long way, personally or professionally. I just feel like it translates into a lot.
That's amazing, because it's not easy to be nice. People make it hard for me. I'll speak for myself. I like to be nice, but I'm really good at not being nice. and
all the time, I'm like, I'm really nice until I'm not nice, and it's hard for me to get there because I'm really patient. You know what I mean? I have two, right? A 27-year-old, a 22-year-old, both college graduates or whatever.
Wow.
And then I have an 11-year-old, right? And so like I'm really nice until I'm not nice. And I think the only one who has really seen my not nice out of those three has been the youngest one. No, but even with people, like, right, in business relationships and whatnot, like I'm real nice. So if you're doing something that's offensive or whatever, it takes being in the industries that I've been in, it takes a lot for me to be offended in any way. I can handle a lot. I've heard all like the horrible jokes in the oil field industry, like totally inappropriate crap, but it takes a lot. And I'm generally pretty dang nice to people, but I think that it's rewarding. It really is to be that way.
Yes. Well, one thing you mentioned, and we didn't talk about it too much, but it's a reality, is the struggles and the friction that you had to endure and continue to endure as a woman in the industry. And so this is a challenge to all the men listening out there and to all the men and women out there that are responsible for hiring and developing people within their organization. Like, it is not okay to be dumb and make inappropriate comments and be short-sighted about women in the industry. If you're tolerating that type of behavior from your employees, you need to do better. You get a pass on not being nice to men that don't treat people like human beings. And if you don't have employees that you're responsible for, and you're saying dumb stuff, inappropriate stuff, I'll say it more clearly. If you're not lifting up, elevating, and supporting everybody you come in contact with, you're failing, and you need to do better, because we can, bottom line. So that's the chastising for the day.
That was pretty good.
What's that?
I said that was pretty good.
You like that? Okay, good. I get a pass. See, and I was still nice about it, right? Like, I didn't get too huffy. Anybody you want to shout out, Jennifer?
Oh, I feel like I did a little bit, but again, like David Little, he has retired since me leaving Martin Marietta. Sandy Garcia, we touched on like the ready mix stuff a little bit when I was there. He also has retired from Martin Marietta.
Wow.
They're just great. Amy, who I love, and I give her a hard time all the time, but just because I know that there's so much more to her than people give her credit for. Let's see. Everybody that works with me, I'm not going to say for me, everybody that works with me, because we're all a team, and I wouldn't be where I am without all of them. So two Jameses, and actually there's another gentleman who just became a part of my team that's an older gentleman, and I really appreciate him. I love storytelling, and I love people who tell me stories. That I just love that stuff. So Jim Delaney, James Oliver, David Regalado, who is the owner's son. Who else? Laura's a long time. Laura and I worked at Martin Marietta together, and I brought her on board, and she's been great. Some of the new people, Dominique, Joe, my dispatcher / go-to everything guy. Like, I depend on him for everything. Even on the ready mix side, there's some transitioning happening, and so for a good while now, I've been in charge of aggregate sales, ready mix sales, all of logistics for both sides of the company. I've,
Wow.
because again, like a lot of this stuff like happened very quickly. So so the my ready mix dispatchers, Crystal and Raul, who I recently had promoted from a driver to a dispatcher, because I'm
Nice.
all about promoting from within. There's a lot of
Yes.
people out there that get overlooked for a long time, and they deserve so much. The whole team that I work for, obviously Joe, my boss, for giving me an opportunity to shine for him. I really appreciate that. Him and Sophia, actually, they're great people to work for. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Jennifer, you are an amazing leader, an amazing friend, and I appreciate you giving us this time today. Did you have fun?
I did. I did. I still feel like I probably talked a lot without knowing that I was going to talk that much.
Oh man, that was a trip down memory lane. I don't know. For me, it was like super. For me, it was super cool because I kind of mentioned I had a little bit of a crush on her. I'd walk her home almost every day in middle school, but getting to be back in contact with somebody that was present at a very pivotal time in my life was a special moment for me. And of course, we got to give a shout out to the L&M family member that's been supporting us. This one goes out to Mr. Rafael Franca with Bosch Refine My Sight. Rafael Franca says, Lean in Love, 5S Love Letters by Jesus and Jennifer, a book dedicated to the men and women that wake up every morning and take that early morning drive away from their homes. The men and women who have accepted responsibility to lead others and make decisions that impact the careers and lives of others. This book really made my daily reading routine so much fun over the past weeks. It alleviates the stress. I learned so much from the men and women that contributed to it, that shared their vulnerabilities, struggles, and were transparent with everyone. Practices that are being used as a powerful influence to heal relationships, both inside and outside the gate of the job site, the office, and at home. We are in relationships all the time, 24/7, with our partner, our family members, friends, at work, and mostly we are in a profound relationship with ourselves. Thank you to Jesse and Jennifer for the great book. Thank you, Rafa, for the amazing review, and the rest of the L&M family. We love you very much, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace. Man, you are one dedicated listener, sticking with us all the way through to the very, very end. Please know that this podcast dies without you, and we invite you to share how the episode's impacting you, along with your thoughts, questions, and suggestions. You've been gracious with your time, so we added social media links in the show notes to make it super easy for you to connect with us. Be kind to yourself, stay cool, and we'll talk at you next time.